Good evening and welcome to, I think it's our first standing room only crowd for the year, which is just a delight to have this many things to celebrate in the district tonight. Welcome to the Livonia Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting of May 2nd, 2022. Mrs. Bonifield, would you please take the roll for us?
Mrs. Acosta.
Here.
Mrs. Bonifield is here. Mr. Centers.
Here.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mrs. Bradford is absent. President Burton.
Here. And we have a quorum. Mrs. Jarvis, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
With pleasure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As Mrs. Bonifield mentioned, Mrs. Bradford is unable to be with us this evening, and we wish her well. She'll be with us back again shortly. This evening's meeting is a regular meeting, or what some refer to as a voting meeting. It's also the meeting when we try to bring in several of the things that we get to celebrate in the district, so we're obviously going to be doing a lot of that. What we mean by a regular meeting or a voting meeting, you may not find the level of discussion about some of the items that are going to be coming before the board for a vote this evening. Please understand that that's not because we are taking any of these items lightly, but many of the items that we will be voting upon this evening, we will have discussed at least 2 prior meetings. If you're looking for a whole lot of detailed discussion about the items that come before the board for a vote, I suggest you either attend or tune into or watch on our website afterward the study sessions or the committee of the whole meetings. The committee of the whole meetings especially have a lot of detail on any of the items upon which the board is going to be voting. This evening, we will be doing more of a summary of some of those items and then going on to vote. We will get into detail on some of our exciting appointees that we are going to be bringing this evening. Those we've not gotten a lot of detail prior on, as far as in public meetings anyway. If you are going to be with us this evening and you'd like to have an agenda, they can be found on the table just outside the door to my left. You can also find blue slips there for audience participation if you're choosing to participate in that this evening. If you're following from home and you'd like to follow along with an agenda, those can be found on our website, which is livoniapublicschools.org. If you hover over the board tab and drop down to board meeting information, you can find our agendas there. And that's also the location where you can find our videos from any prior meetings. So you can go back and watch those. Some of them are really good if you're having trouble sleeping. So, we are going to be taking a break after, let me see here, after item 3B, which is our district update from the superintendent, in order to congratulate our honorees. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Our break will be later on in the evening. We're going to be taking a brief break after item 6C, which is the appointment of our 3 athletic directors of the evening, so that those of us who are present at the meeting this evening can have a few minutes to congratulate our honorees. So if you're going to be around, we'll have about a 5 to 10 minute break at that time. I would like to wish everybody who is celebrating Ramadan a very happy Ramadan this evening. I'd also like to mention one of the character traits that we teach our children in all levels of our school district is that of respect. You have our word that the Board of Education takes that very seriously. We will treat one another with respect. We will treat all members of our audience and our community who are participating with us this evening with respect, and we do ask that everyone do the same who's participating this evening. We find that to be the very best way to teach our children, which is by example. We're going to jump into the regular portion of our meeting at this time, and that brings us to item 3, communications, and our points of pride. 3A is points of pride, board recognition for MASB awards, and at this time I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Oquist.
Thank you so much, President Burton. We have some special acknowledgments tonight. Mrs. Jenkins is going to go ahead and get us started.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, President Burton, members of the board, Superintendent Oquist. Tonight it's my pleasure to once again recognize the achievements of our Board of Education. Through its continuous dedication to learning and growing through the Michigan Association of School Boards. For 4 consecutive years, our Board of Education has been named an honor board, which means that all members of the board have achieved MASB certification. This year, however, our Board of Education has been issued the Standard of Excellence Whole Board Award. This means that all board members have not only become MASB certified, but they've also each achieved a minimum designation of Award of Merit. Each level of certification requires many hours of coursework and a comprehensive professional development program. For all 7 board members to achieve the Award of Merit is a feat that is not all too common throughout our state. For your dedication to continuous improvement, we applaud you. And to mark the occasion and to give you a little something to add to your lengthy, extensive collection, we have created special certificates for each member of the board. The certificate reads Livonia Public Schools Certificate of Recognition, Livonia Public Schools Board of Education, and then we have each of your names listed on each certificate, for your commitment and dedication in achieving with your board colleagues the MASB Standard of Excellence Whole Board status, dated May 2nd, 2022, and signed by Superintendent Oquist. And if I may approach?
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. That's very nice.
Thank you so much.
I'll make sure Karen gets hers.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, in addition, we have 2 board members who have advanced their individual levels through the MASB coursework. Our board members continue to advance their education by moving through the levels of certification, and this year we are proud to recognize 2 who have achieved those advancements. First, we would like to recognize Trustee Madeline Acosta for achieving an MASB Award of Merit. The Award of Merit represents the successful completion of Level 1 and 45 additional credits earned from coursework. Mrs. Acosta continues to impress us with her dedication to quickly excelling through the various levels of certification. Congratulations, this achievement is reflected on your certificate. Next, we'd like to recognize Trustee Liz Jarvis for receiving the Award of Distinction. This means that Mrs. Jarvis has completed Level 1 and Level 2, a total of 4 200 or 300 level classes, and a minimum of 208 educational credits. Wow. Congratulations, Mrs. Jarvis. This achievement is also reflected on your certificate. We are so proud of each of our board members, as all have continuously worked to achieve the next level through the next level of certification through MASB. We see the results in their professionalism, their knowledge and integrity, and in their passion while serving the students, staff, and families of Livonia Public Schools. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent Oquist, who'd like to add a few words.
Thanks so much, Mrs. Jenkins. Well, we did have the pleasure of participating in the awards ceremony last week. It was virtual, but nevertheless, it was really a special time to see our board continue to earn not only individual awards, but this is the first year where our entire board has moved to the Standard of Excellence. So we have been so proud over the past several years that our board has worked tirelessly to earn the Honor Board designation, of which I believe there are less than a dozen across the state. So to earn this next level of Standard of Excellence just shows the continued commitment of this board, nights, weekends, for your own professional development and growth, and we are the beneficiaries of that. The students that we serve, the staff for whom we advocate, our families, we are so appreciative of not only the time you give that people see on screen, but all of the time you give that people do not see. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It is truly, I'll speak on behalf of our board members, and you can jump in if you'd like. It is our honor to serve, and we're thankful to be
Continuing
able to do
to
so.
become
I am thankful
educated
to my
and
colleagues
stay
for
up to date on the
continuing
current
to
issues.
become
It
educated
makes all the
and
difference in the
stay up
world
to
in a
date on-
well-functioning board versus one that has some struggles. It is our honor to serve this school district, and I'm thrilled to serve with these individuals who choose to take it so seriously and make sure that we stay up to date on all the information that we have to do our jobs as best we can for the district. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from fellow board members?
I think you said it all.
All right. Next item on our agenda, and thank you, Mrs. Jenkins. You're welcome. Next item on our agenda is item 3B, district update from the superintendent, and I will turn it over to Mrs. Oquist.
Well, thanks so much, President Burton. You know this is one of our favorite times of each meeting, is a chance to celebrate our students, celebrate our staff, celebrate our schools. And so Mrs. Jenkins is going to pull up my update for you, and you'll be able to see that and follow that on the screen. So first and foremost, as you probably know, it is, are we on the same one? We are on the same one. We are kicking off Staff Appreciation Week, and as you know, we have over 1,900 extraordinarily dedicated staff members in this district who make us who we are. And so we want to give a huge shout out to every single one of our staff across all of our departments and schools. And we encourage our community who may be listening, those who are in the room, it is always the right time to take a moment and acknowledge the impact someone has had on your life. And certainly our educators, our secretaries, our paraprofessionals, our bus drivers, every single role throughout the district. The opportunity to hear how someone has made an impact on a child's life, on a colleague's life, it is always the right time. So we encourage you to reach out for that. Speaking of making a difference, we had almost 500 students participate in Youth Making a Difference this year. So a big round of applause to those students. We had a chance to celebrate them. As always, the LPTSA Council put on a phenomenal event. We had a chance to see individual students in their projects, and you'll see a few highlighted here. Many of them really focused on projects that impacted other children, maybe who are going through difficult points in their life, maybe had some special collections, reached out to help neighbors. Some did school-wide projects, some did class-wide, some were individual. And so you see a number of our students here and on the next page, and then the students came into the PAC at Churchill. I was privileged to share a few words of encouragement with them for their efforts, and knew that I needed to get off the stage quickly because the magician was right behind. And as much as I'd like to think the words were stirring, I know they were anxious to for the next act. So I just want to give a shout out to each and every one of our students, almost 500 of them, who chose to do a project in service of others. We had a great day last Friday. We have had a lot of rainy days, and anyone who is involved in spring athletics can attest to it has been a rainy spring. We had an absolutely beautiful day on Friday, and as you can see here, we had members of the Livonia Tree City Commission, is that what it's called, Tree Committee? Livonia Tree? Okay. And they were there along with the mayor and members of the Greenleaf Commission. And as you know, each year on Arbor Day, they select a school and then they bring 2 or 3 trees to plant with the students. And so we were at Coolidge Elementary. They did a beautiful job planning the celebration. You'll see members of the green team there in the middle. They are the team that works within the school on environmental impact and efforts. And then the 4th graders also sang and read some poems. It was just a beautiful celebration. So I want to thank Mrs. Collier and the Coolidge staff, the green team, and Mrs. Stark for hosting us. And if you take a look at that, does that look like elementary school in your day? It does not in mine. But the Kennedy students exceeded their reading goal month. We saw a couple of those celebrations last month in our update. So they had a glow out day and they had an absolute blast. So we thought you'd enjoy seeing a few of those pictures. And I also shared this last I think it was last month or the month before, the rocket signs that the folks at Hoover and the Hoover PTA and the Testa Family Partners partnered with our students at the Garfield Community School to create the signs. And this is their partnership with Mrs. Mazzoni and the team at Grant Elementary. And so our wonderful students at Garfield Community School helped to create a sign for each classroom. And I want to share with you, this is the sweet sign that the woodworking and ceramics class made for me. It's signed by the students at the Western Wayne Skills Center. And I treasure this, so they gave me a Hoover Rocket sign. So be sure to check them out on Friday if you, I think this is in the update, but we'll give you a sneak peek. They are having a craft show this Friday. So if you have a chance to stop by Garfield from 8:30 to 1:30, their wonderful wares will be on sale. So they would love if you stop by. You might have seen, we have star awards coming out of the LPS Education Foundation, and boy, is it catching on. So this is an opportunity the foundation has as a dual effort. One is a way to recognize our amazing staff within the school district, but two, it is also a fundraiser for the foundation. So we have had about how many would you say? 60 so far? Already had 60 staff members nominated for the Star Award. So we are loving seeing those come through, and perfect to kick off Staff Appreciation Month. And I had a chance to attend the Lctc fashion merchandising class. They had their wonderful fashion show last week, and I just wanted to give them a shout out. They raised over $1,300 for First Step. That was their charitable organization. The students did a wonderful job. They put on the event from start to finish, and it was very, very impressive. And you might see a couple familiar faces there. We had the reflection ceremony a couple of weeks ago. So I think we shared with you the state winners in the reflections contest. Again, Livonia PTSA Council puts this on, and our talented students shared their writing, their artwork, their music composition, dance composition, and you'll see a few photos in here of some of their work. And our own Mrs. Jarvis was the MC. She does a marvelous job every year and gets through all of those. And we had many excited students crossing the stage, so you'll see some of their wonderful work there. And again, we had a number of pieces of work go up and win at the state level as well. And I believe that the Fine Arts Festival was on through all of April, but I don't know if we had a chance to share some photos. So you'll just see here some of the artwork, some of the ceramic was just amazing. If you had a chance to see it, it was just, it was absolutely brilliant. So just a few of the pieces that we have here. And I think on the next slide, you'll see many of our wonderful art teachers who helped make this happen. They pulled together about 20 pieces of art from each school. Hard to make those selections and narrow that down, but great to have an opportunity to have our students work on display. And thank you to the Livonia Library for partnering with us each year on that. And we'll just highlight a few more. Here we go. We shared this evening our MASb awards for our Board of Education. Congratulations again. And this was wonderful. We had, there's a program within Wayne County RESA where members of a transportation department can nominate their peers. It's not their supervisors, it's not administration, but peers recognizing one another. And we had one of our bus drivers, Elizabeth Sarlaskis, and our fleet garage supervisor, Rick Martin, who were both nominated by their peers and were awarded the Wayne County Excellence in Transportation Award. And Mr. Francis and I had the pleasure of joining about 24 members of our, if not more, transportation team at the awards ceremony. So LPS was well represented, and a great opportunity to acknowledge some very hardworking folks. Isn't this a beautiful photo? Congratulations to a Churchill senior and career intern Claire Smith, who worked at Schoolcraft College in her internship. She took first place honors in the state of Michigan for her feature photo in the Michigan Community College Press Award. So congratulations to Claire. And some Mayman success. This was one of the slides I think that was inadvertently omitted from our last update. But the Mid-American Model United Nations, our Stevenson Global Education students work for months to prepare for Mayman. They had tremendous success. So I want to give a shout out to the students and the staff who brought home highest honors in several sessions, and they also brought home Best Prepared School honor. So truly tremendous work, and I know in particular Jack Wagner earned some very special awards for his work and all of his efforts in Mayman as well, so congratulations. And if you can believe it, Mr. Corliss wrapped up his 80th production at Stevenson High School. As you might remember, he retired in January but came back and finished Seussical. So this was a culminating photo. The students honored him with a beautiful quilt to commemorate the more than 80 productions he's been a part of over the past quarter century at Stevenson. So congratulations to him and to our students for an amazing performance. And just a few reminders to mark your calendars. I mentioned the craft show that's coming up at Garfield. Beautiful things. I have many of those in my home and that I've also given as gifts, so it's a great time to stock up because there's maybe a special lady in your life this Sunday that you'd like to honor. So be sure to check out the Spring Craft Fair. And Anastasia is coming to Franklin this week. So Thursday through Saturday, 7 p.m. and 2 p.m. on Sunday. All you need to do is go to their website or our website. You can pick your seat, order your tickets online, and head in and be entertained. And then Kappa will be presenting the Iliad, the Odyssey, and all of Greek mythology in 99 minutes or less. Now that's a challenge. Wow. If anybody's up for it, we know they are. So in a couple weeks, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, May 13th through the 15th. Again, tickets can be purchased online, in this case also at the door. That sounds pretty cool. And Portraits on the Porch, I just want to give a huge shout out to Stacy Jenkins and Teresa O'Brien, who both donate all of their time, along with members of the LPS Education Foundation, to do Portraits on the Porch. It's Saturday, May 21st from 9 to 5. So they will be photographing every 5 minutes a different family, and they edit all the photos and send them out, so they volunteer all their time. Is it full? And I'm announcing it.
It's sold out.
It may be full at this point. It just went out yesterday at 5 o'clock.
It's sold out within the hour.
We are looking forward to the families who signed up joining us. And you might not want to mark your calendar. However, there are cancellations that occur, so please continue to check the Sign Up Genius. Really, as of yesterday, this was current. I'm telling you right now, it was. A couple more. As you know, we have some exciting times. Spring is phenomenal, whether it's concerts, athletics, activities, plays, and certainly for our high schools, our commencements are truly the highlight. So just the schedules we've shared is a little bit different this year. Franklin will be on Thursday, June 2nd, Stevenson Friday, June 3rd, and Sunday, June 5th for Churchill. And our Western Wayne Skill Center students will graduate on June 10th. The first 3 will be back at USA Hockey Arena, and our Western Wayne Skill Center students will have their graduation ceremony at Garfield Community School. And we'll run through these quickly. Kindergarten registration, as you know, is open for the class of 2035. Here they come. Kindergarten Roundup in a couple of weeks. We had a great turnout for Parent Night. Yes, 2035 may make you feel old, but just think about that enthusiasm that's coming through the door. It was always one of my favorite events as a principal. Be sure to continue to check out the Community Hub, especially if you're looking for things for this summer. So it's where we put everyone's flyers and activities and things coming up. So please be sure to check the front page of our website for that. And I know the foundation is looking for LPS alum, and I know there are many in this room. If you've not had a chance to sign up and fill out a quick, short Google form, I sent it to my own children and said, you have to sign up. They know you're alum. We need to see you on the list. It's really just a way to stay in contact and begin to form groups from all of our high schools, including Bentley Bulldogs, and I know we have a couple Bulldogs at this table.
Yeah.
And just always a reminder that we continue to be here for you. The social emotional hotline is still open by phone, by email. It's available to families, available to students, and available to staff. And finally, a very happy Mother's Day to all the moms, grandmothers, and those wonderful mother figures. We hope you have a wonderful day on Sunday, and we appreciate everything you do to help the children we love. Thank you, President Burton.
We are moving on to item 3C, written communications. Do any board members have written communications that they need to share with other board members? No. Seeing none, next item is item 3D, response to prior audience communications. I do not have any at this time. That brings us to 3E, audience communications. Audience communications is a time that the board sets aside to listen to members of the community. It is not a question and answer session, but rather a listening time for the board to hear comments and questions and concerns from our community members. The role of the Board of Education is primarily threefold, and that is to hire and evaluate the superintendent, to set policy for the district, and to align our strategic plan and our finances to one another for the school district. If you have a specific question and it pertains to one of those areas, you can expect a response within a few days from a Board of Education member. If your question, or if you have a question that requires a specific response, you can, and it falls under any other category, which frankly is most questions and concerns that are brought before the board. That falls under our daily operations kind of a category. If you have a specific question and it falls in that kind of a category, you can expect a response back from our superintendent or our administrative team within a few days. This is, as I said, a time for the Board of Education members to listen to members of the community. We do have a 3-minute request for folks. The reason that we have a 3-minute time limit request is that so that we can treat each person fairly and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be heard. Again, this board takes very seriously the concept of respect. We can agree, we can disagree, and often we do when we are talking about a district our size, but you have our commitment that we will treat everybody who approaches the Board of Education with respect. We do have a few members of our community who would like to participate in audience communications this evening. The first is Adam Stratton. Adam, would you like to make your way to the podium? Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I was really hoping that this would be after the robotics team was recognized. And I do have a question I'm hoping that the school board can help with, and this might be some news to the robotics students. So I am so proud of the students' accomplishments on all the teams, both middle school and high school. And they have done an exceptional job this year. There's been a cloud that's been hanging over our heads, and many of the students don't even know this yet. That we've been informed, and we're also so glad to have a new robotics facility coming in 2023. But between now and then, we've been informed that we'll be leaving the facility that we meet in now, the Dickinson Center, and that will be at the completion of this season, which we've just wrapped up. And so we are uncertain of where we're going to go, when we're going to be moving, and if there's going to be a place for our teams to meet this next 22 to 23 seasons. And so the request of the school board, if you can help in helping us get some answers, when do we need to move, where are we going to be able to meet with these students, that would be very appreciated.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
I do know that that is being worked on at this time, and it will be communicated to the team.
Great, thank you so much.
Don't have an answer for it tonight. The next item, or the next person who would like to participate is listed as Frost Robo Falcons. Do we have a representative from Frost Robo Falcons, or representatives? Welcome, folks.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Eid Mubarak to those who are celebrating. As you know, we recently returned from World Championships in Houston. It was an awesome and unforgettable experience for all of us, and we really enjoyed our time there. It was also a learning experience for us. We had to work together with other teams who we didn't really know well, and we also had to overcome barriers while doing it. The World Championship stage was extremely diverse, as there were teams from 14 different countries and from every single continent. And not all of them were fluent in English. So, for example, for one of our rounds, we were partnered with an Israeli team, and they weren't that fluent in English, so we had to communicate with them our strategy with enunciation and using diagrams. we were able to do well in that round simply because we communicated with them well and got our strategy through.
We also built relationships and friendships with teams there. For example, one of our teammates is Romanian and knows a lot about the culture and speaks the language fluently. He was able to talk to the 5 Romanian teams that were there at the World Championships.
We were 6-2-0 with an average score of 206 points and placed 25th in our division. Out of the whole competition, we placed 54th, putting us in the top 0.84% of all teams in FTC robotics. Most of the teams are high school teams, as only Michigan has FTC for only middle school. Similar to states, we beat our previous record score in our first match. Before the state competition, our high score was 200, and in our first match at states, we got 223 points, with a new record of 296 points. At Worlds, our first match was 307 points, which beats our 296.
We would very much like to thank our sponsors and community for providing us an opportunity to learn more than robotics. We learned business skills, including marketing and presenting, soft skills like teamwork and leadership. We learned how to enjoy winning, and we learned a lot from our losses, as there's always room for improvement. We would also like to thank LPS for supporting us and helping us fundraise for the World Championships. We truly will cherish this experience for our entire lives. Thank you all for listening, and have a great day.
Thank you. We are so very proud of your accomplishments. Thrilled to have you represent Livonia Public Schools in such a fabulous way. The next participant is the Livonia Warriors. We have some representatives from the Warriors. Good evening.
Good evening. The Livonia Warriors and the Tyros team both have had an incredibly successful 2022 Rapid React season. After spending 10 weeks creating our robots Turbulence for the Warriors and the Flying Dutchman for the Tyros, we competed and hosted the Livonia District event at Churchill High School. Both Livonia teams fought hard and competed well during qualification matches, with Warriors ending qualifications in first place and the Tyros ranking 18th. Thanks to these rankings, the Warriors became first Alliance captain to pick teams the Engineers from Grand Blanc, Michigan, and the Thunderbots from Dearborn for a successful alliance, which ended up going undefeated in playoffs and winning the entire event. Additionally, thanks to the hard work and effort by everyone in our chairman's group, the Warriors were able to receive the prestigious Chairman's Award and were guaranteed a spot at the Michigan State Championships. The Towers ended up being picked by the 6th Alliance captain, the Platinum Peacocks from Chesterfield, and competed alongside the Robo-Stings from Northville in the playoffs. Although the Towers did not make it past the quarterfinals, they did end up winning the Creativity Award. 2 weeks later, both teams competed at the Macomb Community College District event. Fighting hard once again through qualification matches, this time the roles were reversed as the Towers ended qualification matches ranked 4th and ended up being the 3rd Alliance captain, while the Warriors ended qualification matches ranked 12th. Thanks to the freshman team's high standing, the Towers were able to pick teams More Martians from Goodrich and Metal and Soul from K-Pac for the playoffs, making it all the way to the finals and receiving the Innovation and Control Award, gaining the Tyros enough points to place high enough in the state rankings to qualify for the state championships with the Warriors. As for the Warriors, we ended up being picked by the 5th Alliance captain, the Blue Devils from Richmond, and alongside the Robo Sapiens from Marine City, we were able to make it to the semifinals. The Warriors also received the Excellence in Engineering Award, the highest honored engineering award a team can receive during an FRC competition. At the Michigan Robotics State Championships at Saginaw Valley State University, both the Warriors and the Towers were placed in the active division, the first time both Livonia teams were ever competing in the same state championship division. Despite the best efforts from both teams, neither were picked for an alliance during the playoffs. However, the Towers did end up receiving the Imagery Award in the active division.
Since the cutoff for World Championships was in the high 60s this season, the Livonia Warriors, landing at the 87th in the state, were surprised but eager to be called up and offered a spot at Worlds. So from April 20th to the 23rd, the Livonia Warriors competed in the Hopper Division at the First Robotics World Championship in Houston, Texas, and after fighting hard, ended up placing 23rd out of 75 teams in our division. Although we were not picked to be on an alliance during playoffs, our team did end up winning the Hopper Division Creativity Award, the first time the Warriors have ever received an award during the World Championships. Throughout the past 4 months, all of our team members have worked long and hard on creating robots from scratch, preparing various award submissions, maintaining proper safety protocols, creating a comic book for international outreach, and assisting many teams at both competitions and at Dickinson. After the pandemic cut our 2020 season short just a day before we were supposed to compete, and the struggle of a completely virtual 2021 season, we are proud to be back and better than ever. Of course, none of this would have been possible without the support of Livonia Public Schools. Thanks to your continued support over the past 14 years, the Livonia Warriors have been able to allow hundreds of students to be inspired to innovate the world and to become future leaders, whether they go into STEM careers or not. Our team is grateful for the new robotics facility being built by the end of 2023, which will allow our program to grow further into all levels of FIRST Robotics, including First LEGO League and First LEGO League Junior. We are thankful for all of your contributions to our team that allow us to continue competing and making Livonia proud, and today we would like to celebrate that. A common tradition on our team is to hand out PIT awards to our seniors. These awards honor the students who are graduating and celebrate the hard work they have contributed throughout their time spent on the team. We also hand out PIT awards to other teams during competitions in order to honor their creativity, perseverance, and as a symbol of friendship and unity with other FIRST teams. So on behalf of the Livonia Robotics Program, we would like to present you, the Livonia Board of Education, with the Thank You Award for your continued support to all of our robotics teams since the very beginning. If I could.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Leave that right here all evening. Thank you so much. It's, as we said, it's our thrill to be able to support such a fabulous activity for so very many students. The next person who would like to speak for audience communication is Chris Walters. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, President Burton and the rest of the board. I actually come to you as a sponsor of the robotics team, and I'm a mechanical mentor for the kids, and extremely anxious to kind of say how proud I am of them working with all the other teams from all the other countries as they went through Houston and all the other divisions. And they've taken a lot of time to network with the other kids, as they've expressed. And they've brought back a lot of ideas that we want to implement through the upcoming years, so we're going to be even a more competitive team as the new robotics center gets in place. And I just want to emphasize from the sponsor perspective, for us to align our resources to meet with them throughout the summer. We do a robotics camp for 10 days. We work throughout the school year, not just during the robotics season when they're actually actively competing for the 10 to 12 weeks. For us to get our schedule in line to support their needs. Identifying the new facility I know is on top of everybody's mind, but if we can understand what the cadence will be as that moves forward, so we can expect, okay, we've got another 3 or 4 weeks before we have to identify our resources, or it's going to become even more near term than that, that'll help as well. So I just appreciate if we can get insight to the timeline to make the decision in advance of the decision happening.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. As I mentioned at the beginning, the Board of Education is not the organization that's within the district that is in charge of those types of decisions, but I know that those are being communicated to Mrs. Iselina Carlini and making sure that we keeps folks abreast of the details as quickly as we possibly can. We are blessed in this community to have the passage of a bond, and part of that is a new robotics facility. So there's always some transition that goes on whenever there's a lot of building and a lot of growth, and that's what we're experiencing right now. But I know that the district will be in communication with Mrs. Carlini and get the information out through those channels. Thank you so much to all of those who participated in audience communications this evening. It is our delight to hear so many exciting things going on, and the accomplishments that have been brought to the robotics. Both the middle schoolers and the high schoolers are just very, very exciting, and we are thrilled to continue to support this really, really exciting activity. Are there any other individuals who wish to participate in audience communications this evening? Alrighty, seeing none, we are going to move on to our consent agenda. May I have a motion from a board member, please?
President Burton.
Mr. Centers.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the following consent agenda items as recommended by the superintendent. 5A, minutes of the regular meeting of April 4th, 2022. 5B, minutes of the special meeting of April 4th, 2022. And 5C, meetings of the closed session of April 4th, 2022.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. Are there any items that board members wish to have removed from the consent agenda to have voted upon separately before we vote on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we have a motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And Mrs. Bonifield, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonifield says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. That brings us to item 6, personnel matters. And we're having a very exciting time this evening. We have 3 important personnel appointments that we're going to be taking care of, in addition to our more typical personnel issues. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Willenborg for a brief introduction, and then we will follow that by motions on the individuals who are being appointed this evening. Mr. Willenborg.
Thank you, President Burton. Yes, the brightly burning torches of our high school athletic departments are being passed forward this evening, and I am honored to present our recommendations to the Board of Education. The reality of moving on from the highly esteemed and respected team of Ron Hammy, Mark Haig, Lori Hyman, makes us all pause and express our gratitude for their stewardship of LPS athletics for more than 2 decades. They poured their heart and soul into their work and made what can be a very challenging position into a passion for educational athletics filled with individual and team victories on and off the field, both large and small. While many, including myself, often refer to this position as athletic director, the many and varied aspects of the work also earns them the title of athletic administrator. Athletic administration skills go far beyond contest management and paying officials. It includes philosophical leadership, internal and external communication, interpersonal relationship skills, policy development, community relations, student-athlete counseling, first aid knowledge, budgetary oversight, and human resource work such as recruiting, training, and supervising coaches. We expect them to be teachers of sportsmanship and citizenship, and to connect with all aspects of school administration and culture development, including the principal and assistant principals. The athletic administrators are one of 5 building administrators who mold the culture of the school community and shoulder the responsibilities for everything that does or does not happen on their campus. These are only some of the reasons we expect our athletic administrators to earn a master's degree and to earn an administrative certification from the state of Michigan. The good news is that we had a very strong candidate pool who responded to our vacancy posting. In fact, there were 58 applicants, of which we held in-person interviews for 13 highly qualified individuals. We asked the program coaches to provide input for each school, and we had 6 candidates make the challenging cuts through 3 separate and intense rounds of interviews. This evening, we are down to 3 candidates. Although I started with a reference to the Olympic Games and that passing of the torch, I'm quickly going to pivot to join the excitement of last weekend's NFL draft, and I am thrilled to share that the Livonia Public Schools has been awarded 3 first-round draft choices. And I think at this time I turn over back to Ms. Burton for a motion.
Thank you. May I have a motion for the appointment of the Churchill High School Athletic Director?
President Burton,
Mr. Johnson.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and appoint Casey Conway as the athletic director of Churchill High School effective July 1, 2022.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Acosta. I will turn it back over to you.
With the first selection of the 2022 athletic draft, the Livonia Public Schools has selected Casey Conway to serve as the next athletic director of Churchill High School. Having served for the last 17 years at Churchill High School, Casey Conway is no stranger to the Charger Nation. In fact, he's essentially been serving as a quasi-assistant athletic director, working closely and learning the ropes with Mark Haig for the past 12 years. Mark refers to it as the longest internship in recorded time. Casey began his LPS teaching career in 1995, and for 27 years has served as a well-respected physical education instructor at various levels throughout the district. Through the years, he has added additional roles to his work and currently serves as a district teacher leader for secondary physical education and health, leader of the district sexual education advisory board, and is member of Churchill School Improvement Committee. Mr. Conway is also known to many as Coach Conway because he has coached at several levels and in several programs throughout his career, to include football, basketball, track and field, and volleyball. He is currently serving as Churchill's head coach of the girls' bowling team. Throughout that vast experience, Coach Conway has staunchly advocated for students to be multiple sport participants and has pushed for increased student-athlete participation for all of Churchill's athletic programs. Coach Conway also brings a strong educational background to his work. He earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in Physical Education and Health from Eastern Michigan University, and he earned his Master of Arts degree in Athletic Administration with a focus on high school athletic administration from Wayne State University. Mr. Conway enjoys playing tennis and golf and also attends a variety of local sporting events. Casey and his wife, Amy, have 3 college-age daughters, all of whom were involved in high school athletics. I believe his mother is here with him as well this evening. And we'd like to offer congratulations to Mr. Casey Conway thus far. We recommend and look forward to his leadership as Churchill High School's new athletic director.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from board members before we vote on this appointment? No? All righty. Seeing none, we have a motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mr. Acosta, for the appointment of Churchill High School Athletic Director Casey Conway. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Mr. Willenberg always keeps us on our toes. Yeah.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and the motion passes. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Mr. Casey is here and is willing to offer a few comments if
Absolutely.
so allowed.
Absolutely.
I just want to clarify, Mr. Johnson, you said effective July 1st, correct?
That's what it
Okay,
says.
because I can't get this guy out of office right now as it is.
Good, thank you so much. It's first round, wow, honored, and at this size. 27 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be hired by Livonia Public Schools to share my love of sports and passion for fitness with the elementary students at Roosevelt Elementary School. Today, I am so honored and humbled to have the opportunity to stand before you and take that next step as an athletic administrator. I consider myself truly blessed to have been placed in Livonia as a student teacher with Mark Haig, having no prior knowledge of Livonia or even its whereabouts on a map. Since then, Livonia has provided me with the motivation, stability, support, and resources to progress towards this lifelong employment opportunity. While I will certainly miss the smells and stories of having an office in the boys' locker room for the past 17 years, I am anxious to lead the Churchill athletic community, and with these 2 other fantastic candidates, draft picks at this point, to do everything possible to make the entire Livonia community proud of their high school athletic programs. I have so many people to thank for making today possible, but I'll keep it short. The interview committee, including Superintendent Oquist and Mr. Willenberg, for recommending me to you tonight. The Churchill Charger community of parents, teachers, coaches, and students for all of their support and encouragement during this process. Mark Haig for setting the gold standard for what an athletic administrator should be and how to run a successful athletic program. Finally, and most importantly, my family, two of which are here, for supporting me through the ups and downs of the interview process, and for their continued support through the undoubtedly long nights to come. As I repeated numerous times in my interviews, there's a reason Livonia Public Schools hasn't hired a new athletic director in the last 22 years. This is a special community to work in, and I'm truly grateful for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Congratulations again, and we are just thrilled. I'm going to ask for a motion. Item 7B is the appointment of Franklin High School Athletic Director. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mrs. Bonnefield.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and appoint John Dusty Hall as the athletic director of Franklin High School effective July 1, 2022.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bonnefield, supported by Mr. Centers. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Willenborg.
With another first-round selection of the 2022 Athletic Director Draft, the Livonia Public Schools has selected John Hall to serve as the next Athletic Director of Franklin High School. For the past 14 years, Mr. Hall has been serving as a physical education and health teacher in the South Lyon Community Schools. He is currently the Physical Education Department Facilitator. But for sure, Mr. Hall is no stranger to the Franklin High School community, since in an earlier time, and as a younger version of himself, he played football, basketball, and track and field for the Patriots. Yes, Mr. Hall is a proud Franklin graduate and is ecstatic at the opportunity to return as the new athletic director. But being an alum is not his only connection to Franklin High School. For the past 22 years, Mr. Hall has been coaching football and track and field at Franklin High School. Over the last 7 years, as defensive coordinator of the varsity football team, the Patriots have won 4 district championships, 3 regional championships, and had 1 state championship appearance. Mr. Hall's success as a coach has significantly been defined by the caring relationships he has established with his student athletes and his fellow coaches. Mr. Hall prepared himself for his career with a Bachelor's of Science degree in kinesiology and health from Wayne State University. He is beginning his master's work in educational leadership and is an active member in a number of professional organizations, to include the American and Michigan Association for Health, PE, Recreation, and Dance, the Michigan High School Football Coaches Association, and the American Red Cross. Over the years, Mr. Hall has greatly learned from the tutelage of Mr. Ronald Hammy. As a pastime, Mr. Hall enjoys running and walking his black Labrador Retriever. In addition, he does have one other connection to Franklin High School, as it is there that he met his high school sweetheart, and his wife, Jillian. Jillian is a counselor, and guess where? Yes, a counselor at Franklin High School. They are Livonia residents and the proud parents of almost two elementary school-age children who attend Livonia Public Schools. We'd like to offer congratulations to Mr. Hall thus far. We recommend and look forward to his leadership as Franklin High School's new athletic director.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from board members? Seeing none, we have a motion to appoint Franklin High School Athletic Director John Dusty Hall. Motion by Mrs. Bonnefield, supported by Mr. Centers. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. Congratulations.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you very much. I stand up here humbled and absolutely filled with pride. Proud to give back to my community and proud to come home. I'd first like to thank Superintendent Andrea Oquist and the Board of Education for the recommendation and approval. I'd also like to take some time to give a special recognition to Mr. Willenborg for a phenomenal career, someone that I've definitely looked up to as a leader for a long time. I'd also like to give thanks to my good friends over at South Lyon East High School, Karen Fisher, the principal, assistant principal, Matt Hamill, and Leslie Munger, and the athletic director, Greg Michaels. They helped set me up for this opportunity, and I'm forever grateful to them. Thanks to Ron Hammy, Mark Haig, Lori Hyman for their unmatched leadership in the world of educational athletics. I look to Ron not only as a mentor, but also a great friend. Thank you to Tom Traub for your friendship and advice on just about everything. You are like a brother to me. And pod life on Sherwood Street is for real. Thank you to the admin team at Franklin, Mr. Pacey, Mr. DePonio, Ms. Woodruff, and Mr. Garrethy. I can't wait to join the team and learn a great deal from you all. I'd also like to thank my parents for their unconditional support always. I learned all about hard work, toughness, grit from my mom. I'm proud to have her here tonight. And also to my extended family, your support through this whole process has been truly humbling. I'd finally like to thank my beautiful wife and kids. Audrey, who's a third grader over at Hoover, couldn't be here because she's getting over illness. And Johnny, because he'd lose his 4-year-old mind sitting in here. But my kids are my foundation. They're my bedrock. They're my reason. They're my why. Every decision I make, I have them in my mind. And finally, to my wife. We started this journey together 24 years ago, just about to the date, in the halls of Franklin. Now we're back together in that same place. Thank you. I love you. We are Franklin made, and I'd like to thank everybody. Patriot Pride.
Congratulations, and we are going to continue on this fabulous roll. The next item on our agenda is item 6C, appointment of Stevenson High School Athletic Director. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mrs. Acosta.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and appoint Arnie Muscat as the athletic director of Stevenson High School, effective July 1st, 2022.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mr. Johnson. Mr. Willenborg.
With another first-round selection of the 2022 Athletic Director Draft, the Livonia Public Schools has selected Arnold Muscat to serve as the next athletic director at Stevenson High School. Mr. Muscat's path to this podium this evening is unlike and a bit more unique than our other draftees. Mr. Muscat has just recently crossed the finish line on a distinguished 32-year career with Ford Motor Company, where he has been serving as a senior launch manager. Similarly to our other draftees is that Mr. Muscat is no stranger to the LPS athletic arena. His work in LPS athletics dates back to 1997, when he joined the Churchill High School football coaching staff. Since that time, he has also volunteered as an announcer or event manager with the Churchill hockey, soccer, and track and field programs. Mr. Muscat has previously completed over 400 hours as an athletic director internship with Mark Haig, and has since last summer been the assistant athletic director at Devon Child High School in Dearborn. Through the years, Mr. Muscat has established a strong network of connections throughout the Livonia community and has for some time held this position in mind as the capstone goal of his career. Mr. Muscat holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from Michigan State University. He has earned a dual master's degree, one in Business Administration from Wayne State University and another in Educational Leadership from Madonna University. His training has also earned him NIAAA certification as an athletic administrator and several additional certifications from the American Red Cross. Mr. Muscat is an avid golfer, and among his personal interests, he enjoys walking his beagle, Gracie, and attending college and professional athletic events. He and his wife, Kelly, live in Plymouth, and his mother, Mary, who has joined us also this evening, is a proud resident of Livonia. We're hopeful to offer congratulations to Mr. Arnold Muscat. We're hopeful, we recommend and look forward to his leadership as Stevenson's new athletic director.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from board members? Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, President Burton. And it's more of an observation, and I just want to know how much Mr. Francis had to do with these appointments, because it seems like there's a prerequisite of being follically challenged. Just questioning that.
Any other comments or questions from board members before we vote on this item?
Good, we don't have to respond to that.
We are listening board. Yeah, at times. Any other comments or questions from board members? We have item 6C, appointment of Stevenson High School Athletic Director Arnie Muscat. Motion by Madeline Acosta, supported by Mark Johnson. And Mrs. Bonifield, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Acosta.
Yes.
Mr. Centers.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
You threw me off with your comment. Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
Mrs. Bonifield says yes. President Burton.
Yes. And that motion passes. Congratulations.
All right, I don't have to have you.
No.
We don't have to do that. Very good. Superintendent Oquist, President Burton, Board of Education, and the LPS community, I am honored and grateful for this opportunity to be the next athletic director at Livonia Stevenson High School. Livonia is a special place. I found that out in 1997 when I came here, and I have to have a big shout out to John Filiatro for bringing me over to Livonia Churchill. I hired John in 1991 at Divine Child to come coach with me, and he returned the favor in 1997, and he opened my eyes to what a special place the Livonia Public Schools were. When I got over to Churchill, the administration team of Rod Hosman, Steve Archibald, Dan Willenborg, Joe Anderson, and Mark Haig showed me what a well-oiled machine looked like at a high school. And in my time at Ford Motor Company, I saw those type of interactions, and when I got to Churchill, I said, this is something that I wanted to be a part of at some point in time in my career. So I was very blessed and very honored to see that, and it kind of spurred me on to this position of wanting to get back to a athletic director role. I want to thank the outgoing athletic directors, Mark Haig, Ron Hammy, and Lori Hyman. When I interned for the year, they brought me in as one of their own. They treated me like one of their own, and that was good and bad at times, but it was very good from a standpoint of I learned everything there was to know about being an athletic administrator. So I was very blessed, and I want to thank them again for everything that they've done for me to this point. And there would be lots of phone calls, I'm sure, from this point on. I also want to congratulate the other new athletic directors. I know that we're going to have a lot of fun already. We've already been texting each other with Dusty and Casey. I've known Casey for many years, and I am so old that I coached against Dusty when he was a quarterback at Livonia Franklin. So yes, we game planned against him, and it was really great to see him and great to meet him in this role. I also want to thank, looking forward to the opportunity to work with Lori in the transition and to work for Pete Mazzoni and his staff over at Stevenson. I am so excited and beyond excited to work with them. There's a couple other people I would like to thank. Mark Haig has been a mentor to me for many, many years. He is the person who first saw that he thought I should be an athletic administrator. Back when we started talking in his office in 1997, 1998, we started coming up with ideas like the Churchill Athletic Patrons Program and started talking about things that we could do to help out the city of Livonia. So he has been such a mentor, and he's not just a mentor for his school, but he supports all three of the schools. And that is something that myself and Casey and Dusty, we are going to try to elevate the athletics in the city of Livonia for all of our schools. Certainly we're going to try to beat each other up a little bit here and there, but that being said, we want everyone to succeed. The last two people I would like to thank is I would like to thank my mother, Mary, who's here. Her and my dad showed me what you could do with immigrants who came from the island of Malta with no education and ended up putting 4 kids through college and 4 kids with masters. So she showed me what it's like to hard work and perseverance. And then finally, my wife, Kelly, who has been on this journey with me, who's also an educator, and she has been my rock and has helped me through so many opportunities. Thank you again to everyone. Go Livonia and go Spartans.
Mrs. Oquist, I believe that you'd like to chime in? Sure.
Thank you to Mr. Willenberg for the introductions. I hesitate to add much more because it was not only so eloquent, but just so well stated why each of these 3 candidates are before you this evening. I think I'm so happy they each had a chance to speak to their vision, their enthusiasm. I think you know why we are so excited tonight. I'm grateful to each and every person that took part in this process. We did have some extraordinarily well-qualified candidates. These 3 individuals, we believe, are looking to not only collaborate with one another, but innovate and ignite Livonia athletics and represent our student athletes and our school communities in a way of which we will all be very proud. So thank you.
Thank you.
If
Mr.
I could,
Willenberg, yes.
on behalf of LPS Athletics, we'd like to offer congratulations to that robotics team, the Tyros and Warriors, for their accomplishments and honor tonight as well.
Absolutely.
On that note, I will ask our wonderful robotics friends to make sure you are tuning in to our May 23rd board meeting because you are a special part of our update that night. So if you are not able to tune in, we'll make sure that you have a chance to see that.
We are so thrilled to have our 3 new athletic administrators. There's been questions throughout the community, I know, about the transition of 3 all at the same time. I'd like to thank and acknowledge our 3 outgoing administrators who have been near retirement for quite some time, but on top of their own careers, got us through COVID, adjusted a lot of their personal plans to make sure that education in our world was back on solid footing again before you take the next chapters in your lives. We would like to thank from the bottom of our hearts the administrative leadership that you have shown so very many of our students who have come through the district. It is rare that an administrator has personal relationships with so many, but an athletic administrator is in that rare position to do exactly that. We thank you deeply for your decades of service, and you have huge shoes. We were talking just before the meeting began, it would have been easier for our new 3 athletic directors if they were cleaning up a mess, but they're not. They're coming into a really, really well-run district with athletics and 3 schools that have very, very strong departments. For that, they're going to have a little tougher job to fill your shoes, but that's because you've done the job so very, very well. And we would like to thank you so much, not only professionally, but personally. When we've all worked together this close for this long, we've become friends. And we will miss you both professionally and personally. But we'd like to thank you right now for your decades of service to the district. At this time, we would like to take a brief 5 to 10 minute break, so those of us who are in attendance this evening have the honor of congratulating our new appointees of the evening. We will be at recess for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we will rejoin with the rest of the meeting. We're now at recess. Good evening. Welcome to the continuation of the Livonia Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting of May 2nd, 2022. If you are just now joining us, then wait till tomorrow when our meeting is uploaded and go back and watch the beginning part of the meeting, because we were able to celebrate fabulous robotics students at the middle school and high school level, and then appoint 3 terrific, very enthusiastic athletic administrators for our 3 high schools. It's been a wonderful evening. We're going to get on with some more of the more business aspects of that come upon across our table. We are going to continue with item 6, personnel matters, and 6D is teacher for tenure. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and acknowledge that tenure status has been granted to the following teacher effective on the respective date: Caitlin Leffer, April 11th, 2022.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mrs. Acosta. And we are going to be hearing from Mrs. Keats on this item, I believe.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Very well. Our teacher for tenure on this agenda has successfully completed the district's requirements for probationary teachers, including years of service, evaluations, overall performance, and documentation of student growth. We have carefully reviewed all supporting materials along with the recommendations of our building administration and have verified that she should be granted tenure status with Livonia Public Schools. We wish to offer our congratulations for reaching this milestone and look forward to her continued success working in LPS.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from the board members or the superintendent? We do wish you our hearty congratulations. This is an important accomplishment in your career. We have a motion for teacher for tenure, motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mrs. Acosta. Mrs. Bonifield, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonifield says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 6E, leave of absence. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mr. Centers.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the request for a leave of absence as listed below. Tony O'Connor, April 8th, 2022.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And we will be hearing from Mr. Abate, I believe, on this item.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Hello.
Yes, the staff member listed in your documentation is requesting a leave the remainder of the school year. The request is made in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement for this staff member's bargaining unit, and we ask that you please approve the leave time.
Thank you. Do we have questions or comments from the board members or superintendent? Seeing none, we have a motion for a leave of absence. Motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. Mrs. Bonifield, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonifield says yes. Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 6F, resignation. This does not require a vote of the Board of Education. That is just for informational purposes only. The next item is item 6G, retirements. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mr. Johnson?
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District adopt the attached resolutions of appreciation for services rendered by Lori Kimura, John Aletka, and John Latavis.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Acosta. And I believe we will be hearing from Mrs. Keats on this.
Yes, you will. So tonight we honor and congratulate 3 members of our LPS family who are retiring from their positions with Livonia Public Schools. As these staff members leave the district, they take with them a combined total of 80 years of experience. On behalf of the administration, I would like to thank these wonderful staff members for the dedicated years of service they have provided the students of LPS, and we ask the board to please adopt the attached resolutions of appreciation for our retirees.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from our superintendent or board members?
Mrs. Acosta, sorry, I just looked at Mrs. Acosta. Mrs. Oquist.
Well, as always, we are so grateful for the service of our wonderful staff who serve in these roles. We wish them well in the next leg of their journey, and we are grateful for all that they have given to Livonia Public Schools and the students that we serve.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? The retirements is always a very bittersweet vote, and more often than not, board members have said, if we just vote no, will they stay? We certainly wish our three folks that are listed before us this evening very, very well, much success and much happiness, and hopefully a lot of relaxation in the next chapter of their lives. John Letka has, I have to give a personal shout out. John and Cindy Letka and my husband and I raised our daughters together. Is a dear friend of ours, is just a wonderful gentleman. And so often, John just epitomizes what's best about Livonia Public Schools. So very many of our staff in every role of our district care so deeply about the students that they serve. John, I know, has served most, if not all, of his career in middle school. There's a special jewel in someone's crown, I believe, for teaching an entire career in middle school. But John just thrives in that environment, and he does just amazing work with our students at that transitional age of their lives. But again, we just thank the three individuals that are before us this evening, Lori, John, and John. And again, they represent all that's best about Livonia Public Schools. Are there any other comments from board members? Seeing none, we have a motion for retirements. Motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Acosta. And Mrs. Bonnefield, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Burton?
Unfortunately, yes. And the motion passes. And again, we do wish all three of you a joyous retirement. The next item on our agenda is item 7, business matters, and 7A is the approval of technology contractor for the 2021 bond. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton?
Mrs. Bonnefield.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the recommendation from the owner's representative, Plant Moran Cressa, to approve Phase 1 of the technology contractor bid from Digital Age Technology, Davison, Michigan, in the amount of $204,259, which includes contingency, and authorize the superintendent or her designee to negotiate and execute final contracts with the recommended contractor.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bonnefield, supported by Mr. Centers. And we will be hearing from Mr. Francis on this item.
Thank you, President Burton. So the recommended technology contractor, which is Digital Age Technology, will be responsible for Phase 1 bond technology projects at the following schools: Coolidge Elementary, Kennedy Elementary, Randolph Elementary, Cooper Upper Elementary, and Emerson Middle School this coming summer of 2022. The majority of the technology work will be done in the LMC renovations, and the scope includes items such as providing voice, audio, video, data systems for the LMCs, and if we need any type of data lines pulled or data drops, etc. And it would be also including the idea factories, which are part of the LMC renovations. And of course, this is coming from the 2021 bond fund.
Thank you. Are there questions from these or comments from the superintendent or board members? We're going to be getting into a section right now where one would think there will be a lot of questions, and please know that it's because we've discussed these next several items at length in our previous meetings. Seeing no other questions or comments from board members, we have a motion for approval of technology contractor for the 2021 bond. Motion by Mrs. Bonnefield and supported by Mr. Centers. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes.
The next item on our agenda is the approval, is item 7B, approval to purchase heated holding cabinets for food and nutrition services. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mrs. Acosta.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District authorize the purchase of heated holding cabinets from Stafford Smith, Madison Heights, Michigan, in the amount of $34,352.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And we'll hear from Mr. Francis.
Thank you again, President Burton. This purchase is for 9 heated holding cabinets, which are used in our schools' kitchens when food comes out of the oven, so the food will remain at the appropriate high temperature until it is served. The heated holding cabinets will be at Churchill, Cleveland, Coolidge, Garfield Community School, Grant, Roosevelt, Rosedale, Stevenson, and Webster. They need to be replaced at this time, which is the reason for this purchase. The price that you have there for the 9 of them, $34,352, includes a $3,600 deduction for Energy Star rebates from Stafford Smith. And the majority of this will be paid through the National School Lunch Program Equipment Assistance Grant, and the little bit of shortfall that we have will be picked up by the Food and Nutrition Services funds.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from board members or the superintendent? Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, President Burton. I just want to thank Mr. Francis. I had some questions at the committee of the whole regarding maybe a bulk purchase, and he got that answer to me very quickly, so I appreciate that. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And I believe, Mr. Johnson, that was question as to what your question was.
His question was,
pertaining to
are we buying 9 because that's the amount of money that we have, or are we buying, do we need more soon, and should we just get them all at a, if this is a good price? Two sides, or I guess 2 tangents on that answer are, one, these are the 9 that we need. Speaking with Ms. Schuhart, who is the supervisor of Food and Nutrition Services, she's ordering what she needs, and we put in the grant for what we needed. And ultimately, that is the bid price, so even if we needed more, the amount is the amount.
Great.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion for approval to purchase heated holding cabinets for food and nutrition services. Motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And Mrs. Bonnefield, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 7C, approval of gymnasium lighting replacements and Garfield electrical service upgrade. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mrs. Jarvis.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the bid from Great Lakes Power and Lighting, Casco, Michigan, for electrical upgrades in the amount of $741,960, which includes contingency, and authorize the superintendent or her designee to negotiate and execute final contracts with the recommended contractor.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mrs. Bonnefield. And we'll hear from Mr. Francis.
This is a sinking fund project, and it consists of 2 separate electrical upgrades. One portion will include the replacement of the current fluorescent lighting in the 12 gymnasiums of our middle and upper elementary schools. That would be Frost, Emerson, and Holmes Middle Schools, in Cooper, Johnson, and Riley Upper Elementary, those 6 buildings with 2 gyms in each. The other portion of it will be an upgrade of the Garfield Community Schools power transformer to the standard 208-120 configuration in preparation for the new greenhouse and installation of air conditioning. Those are 2 separate projects. The board's been kept abreast of the greenhouse, which has gone a little bit slower than we originally thought through the pandemic. We started that just before the pandemic, but that is continuing to be worked on. And the installation of air conditioning will be a bond item in the near future, but this specific electrical recommendation is a sinking fund funded project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there comments or questions from the superintendent or board members? Mr. Francis, just for clarification, that air conditioning is, we're talking about for the building, and the greenhouse is separate and apart from that. We're not talking about any air conditioning going into that greenhouse.
Correct. The greenhouse was the item that's going through the Healthy Livonia collaboration and a partnership with the City of Livonia and Livonia Public Schools. When we say installation of air conditioning, like you mentioned, just to clarify for those folks at home, that's the 2021 bond initiative, school building, learning spaces, air conditioning inside Garfield Community School itself. Out in the field area next to the parking lot will be where the greenhouse is located. Those are two separate items. We're just using the same electrician for both electrical projects, but thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion for approval of gymnasium lighting replacements and Garfield electrical service upgrade. Motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mrs. Bonifield. Mrs. Bonifield, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonifield says yes. Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. Thank you. The next item on our agenda, moving on to item 8, instruction matters, and 8A is the approval to purchase a SprayWorks insulation trailer for the Lctc construction trades classes. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mr. Centers.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the purchase of a spray trailer for the use in the Lctc construction trades classes from SprayWorks Equipment Group of Kent, Ohio for $59,858.
Support.
Yes, we have several. We have a motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mr. Johnson, and we'll hear from Mr. Willenborg on this item.
Thank you, President Burton. We've spoken about the insulation spray trailer for a couple months now, and our instructor, our construction trades instructor, Tim Martin, was even here, to explain how the trailer would work. It is a standalone spray installation system based on its own trailer platform, and it allows the students to learn the industry standard of that spray installation in new home construction. We did take this item to bid in March, and SprayWorks was the equipment group of Hartville, Ohio, was the company that we selected to purchase this from. This is a 61C grant funds purchase, so it's not coming out of the general fund at all. It's not a general fund purchase. It's a grant awarded to our Livonia Career Technical Center. I hope you will support this purchase.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from the board? Mr. Centers.
Yeah, I just want to thank Mr. Harper, and for this item and the following 2 items, the staff came out and did presentations and shared about the programs and why these materials are going to enhance the program. So want to thank them for taking the time out. It was very informative, and these are things that the students are going to really enjoy, I think. So I'm excited to vote yes.
Absolutely. Any other comments from board or superintendent? Mrs. Bonifield.
I just would like to say, this one in particular and some of the other stuff that we're doing, how Lctc is really starting to look at some different, be able to have some capacity to give students not only their high school education, but there are some certifications that are available that will actually allow our students to walk out of graduation with a saleable, career with it and be able to do that. And that was one of the things that we had talked about, is that with this and a few of the other things that we're really, investing in Lctc, is that it's really adding sort of layers to the education and the opportunities for the kids.
Yes. In this program and many other programs at the Career Center, the students will be credentialed, for the skills that they acquired in those programs.
This is great.
Comments from other board members?
Yes, along that line, there is such a push for so many students to go to college, but I'm thrilled, and I know we are all thrilled with how many offerings our Career Tech Center has, and the push to recognize that some folks are better suited, and we have an enormous need for folks going into the trades, and we've been hearing from members of our manufacturing community saying that they are facing dire straits with a shortage of workers who are going into the trades. And this is just one opportunity of many where, as you said, we've got folks that are graduating from high school and they can walk right into the job field and begin working, which is terrific. But it's very exciting for those who have not been involved in the Livonia Career Tech Center. Take a look at some of the offerings there. They're just fabulous choices for students. And some they can walk right out and work, and some they work in that field in high school for a bit, or study it for a bit, and realize that one may not be for them, which is equally valuable. But a lot of fabulous job training going on there.
Certainly, the Career Center is a gem in our educational opportunities for students, and the envy of most districts across the state.
Yep,
and that's before we make enhancements and improvements in the next couple of years.
From here. Any other comments from the superintendent or board members? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve the purchase of, motion for approval to purchase a Sprayworks installation trailer for LCTC construction trades classes. Motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mr. Johnson. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 8B, approval to purchase a dump trailer for the LCTC construction trade classes. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mr. Johnson.
I'm excited to bring forth this motion and move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the purchase of a dump trailer for use by the construction trade classes from Beck's Trailer of St. John's, Michigan, for $34,105.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. Mr. Willenborg.
Thank you, President Burton. We've spoke to this purchase during the last two board meetings, and it's a multiple-use trailer that will serve many of the needs of the construction trade classes, to include, hauling dirt, stones, brick, and gravel to the construction site. It has a hydraulic scissor lift capability that allows for the dumping of loads, and it'll be used to transport our recently purchased teleskid tractor. It does have an integrated braking system, so the trailers have their own brakes that are set up in the cab of the truck. The item went to bid in March and is awarded to Beck's Trailer. It is also a grant fund purchase, 61 out of 61C fund grant funds. This is not a general fund purchase. I recommend your support of this purchase.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Mrs. Jarvis.
I'd just like to, to point out that this is not any type of vehicle that students will be asked to drive.
That's correct. It's a trailer, so it'll be connected to one of the F1 or 250s or 350s that will run that, and the students will not be driving those vehicles.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion for approval to purchase a dump trailer for the LCTC construction trade classes. Motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And Mrs. Bonnefield, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 8C, approval to purchase an Anatomage 3D dissection table for LCTC health science classes. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton?
Mrs. Bonnefield.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the purchase of an anatomy 3D dissection table for use in the health science classes at the Lctc from Anatomage, Inc. at Santa Clara, California for $95,810.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bonifield, supported by Mrs. Acosta. And we'll hear from Mr. Willenberg on this item.
Thank you again, President Burton. Another exciting purchase for the Career Center is this 3D dissection table, and we spoke to it in March and through our sessions in April. And Mary Trotter, our Health Science Department Chair, was here a couple weeks ago to talk about the purchase as well. It's where anatomy meets virtual reality through ultra high quality life size visualization. So students will be able to, it'll help them learn to provide medical diagnosis and can be used as a valuable tool for surgical case review, patient consultant, and medical research. It comes with a library of some 1,300 different scenarios, including brain aneurysms, bone fractures, medical implants that will really enhance students' learning. And put it right there on the table and allow them to move organs and bones and around. So it's we're very excited for this. This item went to bid in March of 2022, and we'd like to award it to Anatomage, Inc. It is a purchase, it's being purchased, we'd like to purchase it from our 61A funds, which are funds set aside by the state in support of career technical education. Again, this also is not a general fund purchase. And I recommend your support for the purchase of this dissection table.
Thank you. Are there comments from board members? Mrs. Bonifield?
Mr. Willenberg, this sounds like a pretty complicated piece of equipment. I'm assuming that this also includes some learning, training.
Absolutely, and it comes with the company Anatomage will send out a representative and work with our teaching staff to show exactly how it works.
Thank you. Mrs. Jarvis?
Thank you. I would like to commend the team at the Career Center for not only providing our students with learning opportunities that are state-of-the-art, but also for taking advantage of the state grant program, the 61C and 61A program, so that those dollars are available and they're going out of their way to make those accessible to our students in our district. So they are to be commended for that. It's really great.
Yep, absolutely. Any other comments or questions from the superintendent or board members? Yeah, this is really one of those very exciting, really unique, as you mentioned, Mr. Willenberg, it's where technology meets
virtual reality,
hand-on education. And for some, when some folks who have not been in a classroom in some time don't necessarily understand the impact of technology, this is just an amazing piece of equipment to be able to bring to life a whole section of anatomy that we really couldn't do without this kind of equipment, short of having a cadaver in our classrooms, which we do not have. Those don't happen until a college level course. But now we have something that is so unique at a high school level, which is just amazing. And from what I understand, this is going to be used by several different teachers in several courses at the Career Tech Center.
That's correct. From pre-nursing to the sports medicine to advanced medicine, many of other classes will have access to this. And I'm going to jump on what you said to say that I'm going to speculate that there's some medical schools that don't have this kind of technology, this access to a dissection table like this.
Absolutely. I bet you're right. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion for approval to purchase approval to purchase an Anatomage 3D dissection table for Lctc health science classes. Motion by Mrs. Bonifield, supported by Mrs. Acosta. Mrs. Bonifield, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Bonifield says yes. Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next item on our agenda is item 9, hearing from board members, and 9A is the second reading of Board Policy JD, Student Code of Conduct, removing or incorporating Board Policies JCDA, JCDAA, JCDAE, and JCDBA. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mrs. Acosta.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee and adopt board policy language per the attached document for JD, Student Code of Conduct, and the removal of the policies listed below, portions of which were incorporated into Board Policy JD. JCDA, Student Behavior and Conduct, JCDAA, Prohibited Use of Tobacco Substances, JCDAE, Personal Communication Devices, and JCDBA, Prohibiting Gang Activity.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mr. Centers. Mr. Willenborg, turn it back over to you.
Thank you, President Burton. As we've discussed through several months, there's been a committee of administrators at the secondary and elementary level that have been looking at this policy since October. We wanted to change the name of the policy from discipline to student code of conduct. Incidentally, it's one of our, it's one of our longest policies, if not the longest policy we have. And our community can access the policy on our on the website under school board, and they can find a copy of that policy right there. It'll be in all of our secondary and elementary student handbooks, if it's approved this evening. It'll be in there for next year. But we renamed the policy. As mentioned, we eliminated and absorbed portions of some policies into this. It still carries 4 sections, an introduction, a list of prohibitive acts, due process for suspensions of 10 days or less, and due process and disciplinary hearings for more than 10 days. The policy has been field tested, over the last 3 months, just to make sure it's not missing anything and everything reads correctly. It's been reviewed by the district's school attorney. So I'd like to recommend that we approve the new policy JD, renamed as Student Code of Conduct.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from the superintendent or board members? Mrs. Bonneville.
Just a hearty thank you for all the time and effort that you and your team have put into this. It was a huge undertaking for a very important policy that we use every single day. And for our students in our community, we need it to be right, and we know that you've been successful in updating that, and we're looking forward to implementing it in the coming year.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mrs. Bonneville. Amen from likely the entire board. Yeah.
Thank you for your inputs and suggestions and recommendations through the process. All have been very valuable.
Absolutely. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion for second reading of Board Policy JD, Student Code of Conduct, removing and/or incorporating Board Policies JCDA, JCDAA, JCDAE, and JCDBA. Motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mr. Centers. Mrs. Bonneville, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonneville says yes, and President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 9B, first reading of Board Policy FDB, Long Range Needs Determination, and FDC, Naming Facilities. And I will turn it over to Mr. Francis at this point.
Thank you, President Burton. As we discussed at the last committee of the whole, both FDB and FDC just had a little bit of cleanup and a little bit of tweak. They're both relatively short in length, but they are important board policies when it comes to the two topics. If you'd like, I can read through them unless you have questions beforehand.
Are there any questions first? No? Why don't you go ahead and read through those then, Mr. Francis?
Okay, we'll start with board policy FDB, Facility Expansion Program, Long Range Needs Determination. And I will read it as the new version. The Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to gather information as to long-range facility needs of the district. The superintendent or his/her designee may utilize the services of those consultants such as city, county, or regional planners or private consulting firms as deemed necessary. And the only real changes, there are some cleanup on capitalizations and adding the his/her designation, and we tucked in the or private consulting firm as mentioned in committee of the whole because that is something that we actually have done.
Are there any questions on this item? Alrighty, let's go on to FDC.
FDC is Facility Expansion Program, naming facilities. We removed the word new in front of facilities on this, as you recall. So Facility Expansion Program, naming facilities. Read as the proposed new version will be, the renaming of any current school and the naming of all new schools shall be designated by the Board of Education. In general, the name used shall be that of a deceased American person. Elementary schools, presidents, justices of the United States Supreme Court, and United States Secretaries of State. Middle schools, poets. High schools, poets, statesmen, philosophers, scientists. A portion of a school facility may be named for a deceased person with the approval of the superintendent or his/her designee.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, we will put this on the agenda for next month's general meeting for a vote at that time. Thank you, Mr. Francis. The next item is, just a moment here. Next item is item 9C, first reading for removal of policy KBB, school-sponsored information. And we will hear from Mr. Willenborg on this item.
Over the last several, over the last several weeks, several meetings, we've discussed a proposal to eliminate policy KBB, which is a one-sentence policy that appears to state the obvious. It reads, publications prepared by individual elementary and secondary schools shall serve to inform students and parents about the activities of the school. We do feel that in our current policy KA that is also under revision, we'll be able to incorporate that notice into that policy. This policy dates back to 1988, and we did feel that it's really not directing us in a manner other than the obvious, that our communications are meant to inform students and parents. We recommend its elimination from the board policy book.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, we will put this on the agenda for a second reading and a vote on next month's voting meeting. Thank you, Mr. Willenborg. The last item on our agenda is hearing from board members. Are there any board members who have anything they would wish to share?
A D.
Oh, I'm sorry, we do. One more item. I apologize. I printed that out before we have one more item. The next item on, thank you. The next item on our agenda is, is item 9D, which is approval for board to participate in 2022 virtual MASB Communications and Marketing Conference. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mr. Johnson.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve board trustees' participation in the May 18-19 2022 virtual MASB Communications and Marketing Conference at a cost of $180 per person. Madeline Acosta, Karen Bradford, Colleen Burton, Mark Johnson, for a total cost of $720.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And Mrs. Oquist, would you like to address this item?
Certainly. Well, this goes well with how we started our meeting, which was acknowledging the board for their continuing education. And so we do have 4 board members who will be attending a MASB conference coming up later this month. As you know, per board policy BBBC, it is required that we have prior approval for any expenditures for the board related to their professional development. So we appreciate the board's willingness to continue to attend, and we recommend approval.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion for approval for board to participate in 2022 virtual MASB Communications and Marketing Conference. Motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And Mrs. Bonnefield, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. We are now on to hearing from board members, which is item 9E. Are there any board members who have anything they'd like to share? Mrs. Jarvis.
Thank you. As we heard earlier this evening from Superintendent Oquist, we had many of our students who participated in the PTA Reflections Arts Competition earn their way to the state level competition. This morning we learned that one of those students, Alexis Tseng from Webster, was named a national winner in the National Reflections Arts Competition. So congratulations, Alexis. She was in visual arts, and you might remember her piece. The theme was, I will change the world by, and hers was, I will change the world by curing cancer. It was a beautiful piece.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Any other comments from any other board members they'd like to share? All righty. Seeing none, thank you for joining us this evening when we had so very many things to celebrate. Thank you to our cabinet team we're very near the end of a school year, but culminating in a lot of work that has taken a whole lot of time. A lot of interviewing of folks that are coming before the board at this time, a lot of policy work that we're able to wrap up. It's very, very appreciated. The work of the board, the meetings can go smoothly because of the work that our cabinet does to prepare everything prior to our board meetings, and it does not go unnoticed. So thank you so very much for all of your work. It makes being a board member in this district a joy. Any other comments from the board members or the superintendent? Seeing none, we are at the end of our agenda, and we wish you a nice evening. We are now adjourned.